Officials from the U.S. have now held talks with Niger's new military leaders, the first since the recent coup, and they describe those talks as difficult. Niger's new leadership has also now closed down the country's airspace. Niger is home to Africa's highest-grade uranium ore, and there's growing concern about Russia's influence in the country. Supporters of the new military leadership have been seen out in the street waving Russian flags over the weekend. For a closer look at the situation and why it's being watched so closely around the world is Alex Vines, is a director of the Africa program at Chatham House. He joins us from London this morning. Welcome.
Thank you very much, Anne-Marie.
First of all, for people who may not be familiar, what is this connection between Russia and the coup?
Well, as you mentioned, there have been demonstrators out on the streets of the capital of Niger, Niamey, with Russian flags and placards. But I wouldn't overread that. It's very easy to distribute some flags and get people to write some placards. Moscow itself, the Kremlin, the foreign minister, Mr. Lavrov, has actually condemned the coup twice. And Russia has been also part of a unanimous Security Council resolution denouncing the coup. Having said that, the private mercenary group Wagner, its founder, Mr. Prigozhin, has come out and said the coup is anti-imperial, it's anti-neocolonial, and Wagner would like to help if it's asked. And there have been some reports that Wagner held talks with members of the Niger junta in the capital of neighboring Mali, Bamako, to see whether that could be an opportunity.
You mentioned Mali, and you know, Niger is not the first coup that's happened in this region. Why is the change in government there sparking such concerns around the world?
Well, Niger is pro-Western. As you mentioned, it's an important source of uranium. It's the 7th largest producer of uranium in the world. 15% of French energy supply comes from the uranium of Niger, probably 25% of uranium for civil nuclear power in Europe. So that's important. And also Niger is important in terms of counter-terrorism. There are armed groups in Niger linked to Islamic State and also Al-Qaeda. The Americans have over 1,100 troops deployed in Niger. The French have around that number too. And so it is an important country, both in terms of its resources, but also its geostrategic location related to counterterrorism. And for Europe, it's a illicit migration issue too. There's a major informal pathway called the Central Mediterranean route that goes through Niger to the Libyan coast, and then informal migrants go through the Mediterranean to Italy and other places.
Alex, geopolitics aside, Western aid to Niger has been suspended and the country has struggled to contain militant extremist groups. So what do those developments mean for the country and for the people?
Look, Niger is one of the poorest countries in the world. Over 40% of its population live in abject poverty. It's got one of the highest fertility rates in the world, although child mortality is high, but that's 7.9 children per woman. There are now very stringent sanctions, both by the regional body, ECOWAS, but also the US, the European Union, other countries have suspended their assistance to the country, putting pressure on the military junta to step down. You mentioned that the American Assistant Secretary of State visited Niamey yesterday for very difficult talks. Well, today, the regional body, in partnership with the continental body, African Union, and the UN, is doing shuttle diplomacy also. They're visiting Niamey. And there's a big summit on Thursday of the regional bloc, ECOWAS, to decide what the next steps are, including should they conduct a military intervention.
Interesting to speak with you today, Alex. Thank you for the updates.
Thank you.
Hey, thanks for watching. If you liked this, be sure to subscribe here, or you can check out more Your Morning videos right here.